Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, as per tradition, I'd like to say a big thank you to Jamie Warham for sending in some pictures of his 51st Elysian Stormtrooper Regiment, which he uses as a Militarum Tempestus army. Just want to say there are some absolutely fantastic models in here, ones that you don't often get to see. I love the Vultures and I love the Marauder Destroyer, which you said is converted from a Marauder bomber. That looks fantastic. I believe you've sent in some pictures before. I recognise the artillery balloon. I think you've sent that in before. Looks absolutely amazing. Just fantastic models, fantastic conversions. Really appreciate you taking the time to send these pictures in, and thank you for letting me use them in my video. If anyone else has any cool pictures they want to send in for me to use my videos, please post them on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. So, without further ado, let's take a look at today's video topic, which is going to be how to gunline. Now, I like to do a theme with my videos throughout the week, but I also don't like my videos to get boring. So, yesterday we talked about mobility, but we also mentioned gun lines. Today we're going to talk about gun lines, okay? And then we were talking. It's like the opposite end of mobility, but it's it's still sort of in there. Basically, there's a very important thing to remember when it comes to gun lines, okay? And it's very much a golden rule, especially in 8th edition, which is you are very unlikely to stop the enemy from getting to you. If you're facing a close combat army, there's a very good chance that your opponent, no matter how many guns you may have, and no matter how much you're theory crafted and math hammered, there's a very good chance that your opponent is going to get to close combat with you. Why? Because he has built his army to do that. And anyone who is building a decent close combat army knows what is their biggest weakness? Gun lines, and therefore they have ways of getting round it. That's the biggest thing that your opponent is going to factor in. Again, it almost comes down to the like a similar concept to the mass deep striking video I did, which is the key to doing mass deep striking is about what you're not deep striking. Well, the thing is, the key to creating a shooting army is about what's going to get into close combat with you. You've got to factor in your weakness. If you're building a excellent Imperial Guard gun line, let's use Krieg as an example. We've got some Krieg pictures here in the background. You might have your waves of infantry with lots and lots of guns, and you've got your artillery, a classic, and tanks. And you're like, yeah, I'll be able to outshoot anyone. If I come across Tau, I'll be able to outshoot them. Okay, cool, great, fantastic. You might be able to outshoot some Tau, no problem. What you're going to do if someone comes and they've got, I don't know, it could be something as crazy as just hundreds of Orc boys, Khorne Berserkers and Rhinos. Okay, now you might think, oh well, that's not a big deal. I'll shoot them. What you're going to do and I've seen this army list, and I have used an army similar to this to win against an Imperial Guard gun line. What are you going to do when that guy throws 8 Rhinos or Khorne Berserkers at you? Okay, and you're like, oh well, I'll shoot him. Well, what if he goes first? What if he goes first? And what if he blasts forward and advances and pops smoke? Suddenly you're -1 to hit and everything. And let me tell you, and all of you who have been to tournaments and have experienced this before, and I have banged on about it, is minus to hit modifiers really, really make guards suffer. Really do. Suddenly all your anti-tank weapons are getting on 5s at best. And even if you kill the Rhinos, all you're doing is blasting Berserkers out, either into cover. If your opponent's not going to have Berserkers out in the open, he's never going to do that. You're talking about competent players here. They're either going to get blasted out behind landside blocking terrain, behind the Rhinos, you can't see them. They're going to be in cover, so they're going to be on 2-up save. They're going to get to you. Orcs. Oh, they're all the way on that side of the table now. What happens when he jumps a unit? what happens when he's evil sons? You know, and he just gets waves of the in your face, and you've got no way of dealing with it. This is what I'm talking about. I don't want to labour the point anymore. Try and keep this a quick tip tactic video. When you're thinking about gun lining, you have to think about how your gun line might be compromised and how can you deal with that. Okay? Now, the obvious answer, and we've talked about this before, is screening. But you have to have a certain amount of screening. Okay? You have to be able to keep the enemy back. That's fine. Okay? We've talked about that before. But again, a lot of competent close combat army commanders will either have the goddamn brute force or the tactical cunning to get around your screen, or just through it. Okay, through it, just bludgeon their way through it. Okay. Something you have to, you know, Gene Silicon, a very good example of this. What are you going? You think you've got the enemy all sorted out. What are you going to do when suddenly 100 acolytes, and don't say no one's ever going to bring 100 acolytes, because let me tell you, I know this seems like a very confrontational video, but I really want to hammer this point home. 100 acolytes only cost 700 points. Someone can go Calls to the Four-Armed Emperor, they can all deep strike in, they've only got an 8-inch charge. Someone could then go Clamavus, they've only got a 7-inch charge. Someone could then go Deliverance Brood Surge, reroll charge distance. 7-inch rerollable charge? That sounds more than doable to me. I'm used to rolling black with Black Templars and having a 9-inch rerollable charge, and I tend to get in more often than not. So these are things you have to be aware of. Now there are two ways of gun lining and being able to counter the close combat threat. Because if you've built a solid gun line, then you're going to have enough firepower to hopefully outshoot anyone, but you have to be able to deal with this close combat nonsense, right? Two ways you can deal with it. One, you bring plenty of infantry, not tanks, infantry. You have some tanks, of course, but you bring more than one layer of infantry, maybe 2 layers, maybe 3 layers. Okay, why infantry? Because the first way of dealing with close combat, and it's kind of like the asymmetrical way of thinking about it, is by being able to fall back and shoot. You're still shooting them, but you need to be able to have units that can fall back and still contribute to the fight. Tanks can't do that. Infantry can. You can use the order, get back in the fight, to fall back from close combat and still shoot. Now, you won't be on, you know, first rank fire, second rank fire, but you will be on a good old-fashioned rapid fire. So that's the asymmetrical way of thinking about it. The symmetrical way of dealing with a close combat monster unit, or just army in general, is to have your own close combat units. Okay, which might sound a bit weird, a bit crazy, because obviously you've got to get a very good balance. Because if you go too much, if you're like, oh, well, Mordian Glory said I have to be able to counter every close combat, so I'm going to go really, really close combat. If you do that, you're going to find sooner rather than later that that you've got too much close combat and not enough shooting. What you have is like a counter attack unit. Okay, now there are 2 counter attack types of counter attack unit out there. There are your own close combat specialists, such as Bullgrins or Ogrins. Okay, now a lot of people dismiss Ogrins. Well, let's be honest, Bullgrins are very, very good, but Bullgrins are very good. 2-up save and close combat, very nice. But Ogrins are significantly cheaper. Okay, and that is important, because if you're just looking for a close combat unit that can stem the tide, that can take the sting out of an opponent's tail, you're still going to have a bit of damage, but you know you've damaged him enough where his close combat potential is greatly reduced. You're not looking to win the close combat fight necessarily. You're just looking to either slow him down or even it out a little bit. Ogrins could do that very nicely for a very reasonable price point. Don't dismiss them. Bullgrins, everyone loves them, but don't dismiss Ogrins if you're looking for a discount tough close combat counterattack unit. Okay. The second one, which is less obvious, but which I have learned to use as a Steel Legion commander, is it's like a speed bump. Okay, now obviously what typically people think of a speed bump is like an infantry squad that absorbs the charge. No, that's what I call a screen. Speed bump is a bit different. A speed bump, or like a roadblock. A roadblock's a very good term for it. A roadblock. If you have a unit like, let's say, 3 custody bikes coming at you, that's a reasonable unit. Pretty powerful. Now, if you let it charge you, it's going to be, it's going to start tying up units you don't want it to tie up. What about if you have a Chimera? What if you charge the Custodes bikers with a Chimera? Maybe 2 Chimeras. You might be saying to yourself, well, why would you do that? You won't get to shoot next turn. Well, guess what? They're going to come in and you're not going to stop them. However, if you charge a Chimera or 2 into a 3, 4, 5 man squad of Custodes bikers, it's important to remember that Custodes bikers with their lances only get to reroll wounds if they charge, and they're only strength 6. A Chimera is toughness 7. So sure, the Custodes bikers have got like 3 attacks each. It's going to have like 12 attacks on a squad. Okay, fair enough. They're probably going to hit with. They're going to have a captain nearby. So they're probably going to hit with all 12. Fair enough. They're going to wound with a third of those. We're going to what? A third. We're going to wound with 4. You might make an armor save if you're lucky. So let's say 3 go through. So if you minus 3, 3 go through. 3d3 damage is 6 damage on average. At most it's 9. If 4 go through, on average, you're looking at 8 damage. Now even if they all go through and they kill one Chimera, if you send the second Chimera in, you've got them locked up. Now you might be thinking, but why would I want to do that? What is the madness in doing this? Well, guess what the madness is? When it comes to the Custodes player's turn, suddenly he can't charge you. He's got the fly keyword, he can fall back and shoot, but he can't fall back and charge. Think about these things. If you're trying to stop someone from tying up your gun line, from tying you up in close combat, best thing you can do is make them not be able to charge you. Make them fight things they don't want to fight. How many times have we all here had a good old 2-3 Lehman Russes or Lehman Russ and a tank commander suddenly get tied up by some bullshit biker unit? Not just Custodes, Dark Elder, Harlequin bikes, for example. They're pretty popular these days. What about jump pack units? Less common these days, admittedly. Not a lot of people like Assault Marines, but they still exist. There's still units out there that do it. And, they tie up your Lehman Russes. Well, what would happen if you charged that unit in with a couple of Chimeras first? They wouldn't have been able to get your Lehman Russes. Your turn rolls around. Their turn rolls around. Now they either have to stay in combat with a unit they can't really hurt very well, or they have to fall back and shoot. Now they might stay. If they stay, they're not gonna enjoy themselves, are they? It's not gonna work for them. So there you go, guys. Hope this has been interesting. I know it's a bit of a different angle on gun lines, but we all know how to put guns on a battlefield and shoot the enemy. That's not hard. Bigger guns, the better. Good strength, good rate of firepower, all very good. That's easy. Again, we're looking at this from outside the box. What's important about mass deep striking? Not what you're deep striking. What's important about gun lining? Dealing with close combat. That's the way these top level players think. I don't necessarily. I make mistakes like this all the time. It's all well and good for me to talk about this, but I've made these mistakes, guys. I can vividly remember a game versus Custody Bikers 6 months, maybe a year ago, where I could have won it. I could have easily won it if I hadn't been a little bitch basically and had thrown 3 Chimeras in against them. So learn from my mistakes, hopefully. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. What do you guys think are important about doing a successful gun line? Okay, I've talked about one aspect of it, but as always, I like these videos to be a repository. So if anyone comes along and wants to find some good guard tactics, about half the content's in the video, to be honest, but I don't get everything. And I've always found that the comments down below have been very informative. A lot of people have said that they're really good. So thanks, guys, for commenting. And if you do comment, it is really, really appreciated. And just remember, you're helping out your fellow Guard players as well. And together, we all help each other. We make Imperial Guard great again. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.